Okay, I'm supposed to start. Just as a quick estimate, how many people here know nothing about Ethereum and only came because the name sounds relatively cool? Apart from Luke's intro talk. Okay, so it's only about 4 or 5. So this talk that I'm going to give is a high-level overview of Ethereum, so it's not a technical talk, so hopefully everyone should be able to follow this. However, if there's any tech people in the audience that want to ask me questions, I'm happy to turn it into one, so as we go through, you can ask technical questions. But before I start, I just mainly wanted to talk about why I chose to give this particular talk as an overview of what Ethereum is. And the reason is that I've been to a number of these meetups, and a lot of the talks that I see are typically about what Ethereum is right now. There's not much discussion going on about what Ethereum's developing and what their actual end goal is. What is Ethereum going to be in 1 or 2 years? And that's not localized just to this. That's not localized just to this dev meetup. Typically, in the dev space and in the community, there's not that much documentation about what Ethereum and what the dev guys are actually building right now, and what they're actually trying to solve with Ethereum. So I collected a few slides and a quick 30-minute talk to try and let you guys know about what Ethereum is trying to do. So I've got 2 main objectives with this talk. The first one is that I want to try, when people ask you what is Ethereum, the typical, you're kind of inclined to say, oh, well, Ethereum is decentralized apps on a blockchain. We can have immutable code, we can put it on the blockchain, and it can run decentralized applications. I want to try and change that narrative into something more along the lines of Ethereum is the new internet. And I know that as I say that, there's a few tech people here that cringe over the new internet, because technically it's not the new internet, it's the new web. But that doesn't sound as good, right? If you say Ethereum, it's the new internet, then you usually get more people interested in what you have to say. Secondly is I want to try and impart at least some of my enthusiasm in this technology, and the way that I'm going to try and do that is to at least try and argue that the current internet is broken, we need something to fix it, and Ethereum is a way to do it. So hopefully if I achieve that task, the questions towards the end of this talk are going to be something along the lines of, what's the best exchange to buy Ethereum? But I suppose we'll see how we go. Okay, I guess, before I start, my name is Adrian, as these slides suggest. As Luke said, I finished a PhD in theoretical physics, and I've been drinking the blockchain Kool-Aid for more years than I can count, and it's probably a little bit too much because I've now given up on maths and physics and now I'm a blockchain consultant. So Ethereum, I think, is where it's at. As a blockchain consultant, I'm supposed to be blockchain agnostic, but Ethereum's not. Okay, so let's start. So, what is Ethereum? So, this is the kind of question that gets asked in these meetups all the time, and I've heard hundreds of different kinds of responses to this kind of thing, and I just want to have a one-slide kind of explanation of the common kinds of things that you'll hear when you ask this question. What is Ethereum? The first one is typically things, which is Luke is the culprit of doing, he did it today, is you start and you say, okay, look, there's a thing called a blockchain, and then there's Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first one, it does money. And then people came along and were like, it's all open source, so we can fork this thing. So then people came along and they forked it, and they made Litecoin, and Litecoin's like a faster version of Bitcoin, and it also does money. And after a bit of time, people realized, well, wait a second, we can do a little bit more cool stuff with this blockchain things, and we made blockchain 2.0, and we can now put arbitrary code onto the blockchain. And then you have Ethereum, and Ethereum does arbitrary code, you have waves, you can tokenize things, and 100 of other different things. My beef with this explanation is you kind of put Ethereum into the box with every other cryptocurrency. It just looks like some other arbitrary cryptocurrency amongst all the others. But also, unlike Bitcoin, so you've got Bitcoin up here, Bitcoin does exactly what it's always planned to do. It deals with money and it looks after money. Ethereum hasn't even started to at least finish to do its what it's designed to do. What it's designed to do is still kind of abstract. So a lot of people liken Ethereum to maybe like a person, and if you were to do that, Ethereum is like in its toddler stage. It's not even close to maturity. The things that it's going to do in the next couple of years is going to be completely revolutionary, in my opinion. And that's why I don't really like the fact that you put this in the same bucket as Bitcoin and Litecoin, because they have no actual end goals. If you talk to some more tech kind of people, you might have some fancy words. I've heard it a little bit earlier today. You get things like Turing complete, right? Ethereum's a Turing complete thing. It's got a virtual machine. You might even hear people say things like, what was it you generalize the opcodes in Bitcoin so that you have a Turing complete Ethereum virtual machine that DAPs run on and all these kind of technical jargon, which is all true. You also have things like you've got decentralized programs, you've got programmable money as a slogan, unstoppable immutable code, which is kind of controversial at the time. But all these kinds of things, they are true. And even if you go to the actual Ethereum website, and if you grab this one, I'll put ethereum.org, the Ethereum Foundation, their explanation of what Ethereum is, it's a decentralized platform that runs smart contracts, applications that run exactly as programmed without any possibility of downtime, censorship, fraud, or third-party interference. And that's what the Ethereum Foundation actually calls Ethereum. And all of these explanations, in my opinion, are unsatisfactory of what Ethereum is, which is why I'm going to give this talk. I think Ethereum is much, much more than this, and it's because of the goal that the developers have for it. And that's going to try and what I'm going to articulate throughout the talk. So, Ethereum, it's more than just dApps. In the dev or in the sort of the community, the Ethereum community, there's a coined frame called the Holy Trinity. And this is a unification of 3 different kinds of technologies. The first one is Ethereum, which is this logo, which hopefully everybody here at least has some understanding of what that is. The second one is Whisper. Whisper is a technology that's going to be built onto Ethereum, and essentially it's allowing communication between decentralized applications. So Ethereum is a network. You've got nodes connected across that network. There's more things apart from building a blockchain across those nodes and the interconnected things that you can do. One of them is communication. So if anyone knows Tor or the Onion router, you can do similar kind of things across that network, and that's what Whisper's aiming at doing. The third one is Swarm, and Swarm is a decentralized file storage system. You have to store large files and things onto that. So these are 3 technologies which together, when they unify, is called the Holy Trinity. And this plays an important role in what Ethereum is trying to develop. So the three major things is Ethereum, and in particular we're going to be looking at programmable money. That's the key element of what we're going to be using Ethereum in this Holy Trinity kind of section. The second one, Whisper, allows, as I was saying, encrypted or anonymous communication messages between dApps or nodes on the network. And Swarm, as I said, is distributed file storage. You can think of it as kind of like a decentralized Dropbox. Okay. So now I've got to have an argument. Essentially, it says the current internet is broken. The web is broken. We need to fix it. So before anyone runs and jumps out the window because all our internet's going to explode, you do actually. I'm sure if you check your phone, you will see that YouTube and everything is still working. It hasn't exploded. It is actually still kind of good. You've got, like, in your pocket, you can have the entire collection of humankind just in your pocket sitting there. So I mean, it's not all that bad. It's not entirely broken, but it's still kind of dodgy. And let me explain that by firstly talking about the generations of the web. So when the internet first came out, we had what a lot of people coined as Web 1.0, and the web was essentially a static collection of web kind of files. Like the servers that were serving you files were kind of like static web HTML pages. Users had very little kind of interaction with them. It's kind of like, imagine like brochures and things. Come and buy all my stuff off this thing, but you never really could interact with it. This eventually progressed where users want to have more kind of input onto the current technologies on the current internet, and that's where we developed Web 2.0, and this is where we currently live. And in this system, you currently have users, they produce content, but they don't have massive servers or massive infrastructures to store that content, so they put that content onto giant, massive corporations like Facebook, Google, YouTube, etc. And those companies then distribute that content to you, put advertising on it, and they get paid for it. Okay, so now I need to argue this is bad. We need to fix this. This is not good. And there's 2 arguments I want to try to apply. First one, consider the scenario, and this is actually a true story, maybe you guys have actually experienced this as well. If you had a friend that's just had a baby, and 30 seconds, maybe not even 30 seconds, after that baby comes out of the womb, they take a photo and put it on Facebook. Has anyone seen that? Has anyone seen yeah, there we go, I've got a few. I've got a few friends that have done this. Right? And then not only a couple of days later, or even a month later, they take photos of that baby in different outfits, and they say, look at my baby, it does all this cool stuff, and then a year later it's like, look, it said its first words, these are its first words. Some people go to the extremes and they make the baby a Facebook account, and that baby's got a Facebook account, and it's like doing its thing, and it checks in and logs into places and all this kind of stuff. My concern with this is there's a new precedent of data collection. Like we can store more data than we've ever been able to before, and literally in 5 to 10 years, Facebook will own the data of this child or this baby, literally 30 seconds after it came out of the room, right? It'll know places that it's been, it knows the first words that it said. If you use Facebook chat, then it knows all the messages that it said across everywhere. I used to be a data analyst, and there's some scary things you can do with large data and a little bit of mathematics. And eventually in the new world, data is going to be power, and in the current Web 2.0, you've got a handful of giant conglomerates that own everybody's data. And now, some of you may be like, oh, I don't care, you can know what I say to my friend Tuesday afternoon, I don't care, they can know everything about me, I'm not doing anything dodgy. Or some of you might also be like, well, I don't even have a Facebook account, so that doesn't even worry me. But how many of your friends have a Facebook account? How many of your friends talk about you? You can do data correlation. So regardless of whether you have an account or not, the data is being stored. It's being stored by a small conglomerate of a number of people. And in 5 to 10 years, that's a dangerous thing. I'm personally terrified of where that's going to go. So this is a broken system. Some people are like, okay, well, I still don't care about that. There's another argument I want to propose, and that is an economic one. So that usually, pushes or motivates people a little bit more because money's involved. The other one, it kind of goes like this. Everything that you download off the internet, it costs you money. You have to pay per bit, per kilobyte, per megabyte, right? Every time you download, you go to a website on your phone, it costs you money. There's a statistic that something like 70 to 80% of the data that you download is advertising, right? So you are literally paying to look at advertising currently in this system. And let's say you went to a website to look at Luke's dog photos because he has really cool dogs. You go to that website, and typically Luke has posted that on Facebook, so you're on Facebook. Facebook is the one that's selling you the advertisements. They're the ones that get the money. Luke gets little to nothing, and it costs you money. So in this current system, you're paying for advertising, the content producer gets almost nothing, and the middlemen are there making all this money, right? So in an ideal world, you should be getting paid to look at advertising. Your attention is valuable. You should be getting paid. The person that creates the content should also be getting paid. So that is another argument to why I think Web 2.0 is broken and we need to change it. So there's currently, in my opinion, 2 strategies that we can do from now. One, we can acknowledge this. We can kind of sit there amongst all the fire and just be like, okay, this is fine, like 5 to 10 years, like we'll see what happens. Or there's a group of other people, and the reason I'm giving this talk at an Ethereum meetup, just as a bit of a spoiler, it has to do with Ethereum. These guys have come up with a better way of doing this. We can fix these problems using Ethereum. And now they've thought about it long and hard, and they've come up with an entire new framework about how we can fix Web 2.0. And they were really original, and they came up with a really clever name. It's called Web 3.0. Okay. So I know what you're thinking, you're like, okay, cool, we've got a solution to all of these problems, but how does it work? Now, I'm glad you're thinking about that, because I've come up with a completely fictional, has nothing to do with real life stories, cartoon depiction of how we can solve this problem. And it starts with a person, whose name is Adrian. And Adrian is a physicist. And he has written a paper, and it's titled Gravitational Waves from the Phase Transition of a Nonlinear Realized Electroweak Game Symmetry. Really interesting stuff there. So Adrian was like, okay, this is some really cool stuff. I need the entire world to go and see this really interesting paper about gravitational waves or something. And so what Adrian does is he goes, I know, I will go upstairs to my computer and I'll build a web server and I'll put it on the internet. So he does that. He builds his home web server at home and puts it on the internet. And 2 people a year go and view it and see the paper and all is good with the world. There's no issues. Okay. But then Adrian's friend comes along, Paul. Paul has a series of cat photos. And he's like, I want to share this with the world also. Can we put this on your web server? I'm not sure. Absolutely. We can put the cat photos on the web server. But the second that I do, 100 billion million people also want to go and see all the cat photos, and my server explodes because it can't handle all the bandwidth. So essentially what I'm trying to summarize here is that popular content, I can't just store on my home server. So at this point, I've got 2 options. One, I can go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I can build my own internal infrastructure, my giant server farms and all these kinds of things, which would be really cool, by the way. But unfortunately, Adrian is an underpaid physicist and doesn't have the money for that. The second option he's got, which is free, is he can go for free, put his cat photos onto Facebook or YouTube or Google, or etc. cloud services, and then they will then the whole cycle repeats where WeWork went to 2.0, they make money off my content and they get all of the data, they own the data, and they get all the money. What if there was some alternative option? Okay, so here's where Ethereum and Swarm come in. So, what I'm going to try to describe here is imagine Swarm. This is a network. All those little bulbs there are technically computers, but I'm going to refer to them as nodes for a technical reason. And yeah, so each node, anyway, each node is interconnected to a number of other nodes, but they're not all, I can't connect from this guy all the way up to this guy, right? I have to go through a few of them. So let's consider the scenario where this is me, my computer is on this node over here, and I've got my physics paper thingy over on this node up here, like this guy. Here's where this guy is. Okay, so in Swarm, the way that this works is that I then go to the node that's nearest to me and I ask, I want to get that paper. And I'll get that paper, but I'll give you 1F to do it. So here's 1F, go and fetch me that paper. And that guy goes, okay, sure, I'll do that. But he then checks, he goes, I don't have that paper, but I know somebody who does. So he asks that guy and he goes, I'll send you 1F if you can go get me that paper. And that guy doesn't have it, but the process essentially continues. He sends 1F until eventually it goes to the node that has it. The node that has it then has that 1F, he goes, I've got that 1F, sure, I'll keep that F and I'll send you back the paper. So the paper gets routed back to these nodes, back to me, I've got my paper, and the end result is the guy that actually held the content of the data gets the money, right? He got received, cost me money to get it, and then he got it. So this is all good, but with this example, Web 2.0 also worked quite satisfactory. So what about with cats? Popular content that everybody wants to see, how does this process work with cats? Same kind of deal. I ask the node, here's 1F, go get me all the cats. And then he reroutes it, same as what we did before, and then it comes back to me. Now there's one key point, is that the nodes that the cat photos routed back through aren't dumb. They're clever. What they're going to do is, instead of just like getting the cat photo and deleting it, they're going to cache it. They're going to cache it locally, so they store their own copy of it, right? He's cached that cat thing on that node because it's popular. The reason he wants to do that is an economic one, and you'll see that in a second. So let's consider we've got 3 more guys that come along and they all want that cat photo. They no longer have to go up to this node all the way up at the end here because this guy's cached it. So he'll actually he sends 1F to get the node. The node that cached it now receives 1F, and this guy who also wants to get the cat photo is now closer to go to this node than the one that's all the way further away. So he goes through that guy, and then that node that cached the popular content gets the 2F, and the third guy also gets him. So he's made 3F just from caching this content that somebody else had asked for a while ago. Hopefully you can see that this kind of incentivized structure will auto-scale with popular content. It scales inversely compared to traditional systems. And what I mean by that is that if you have a standard server, right, like let's say you've got a server and it's got Game of Thrones on it, and there's 100 million people who want to download that Game of Thrones from that one server. The more people that want to download it, the slower it will take for you to download it because the bandwidth is limited. Hopefully that makes sense. Get a few nods. Okay, cool, we got a few nods. Okay, in this scenario, the more popular content, the more nodes are going to store it, right? And the more nodes that are going to store it, that means there's more places for you to download. So instead of downloading Game of Thrones from one particular location over on the other side of the world, you can download it from all of your next door neighbors all at once. So in this case, as content becomes more popular, you get greater and greater bandwidth, which is the opposite effect of what happens in the traditional system. Okay, so back to my example, I now have an alternative. And Swarm, this example that I'm showing you here is almost, at the moment, it's actually free. You can put your content on there and it's free and it auto-scales. So I've got now one extra option. I don't have to go and put my content onto Facebook or YouTube or Google anymore. I can put it onto Swarm, it will auto-scale. If I have cats that 100 million people want to view, put it onto Ethereum, right, or on Swarm. It will auto-scale. The bandwidth is even better. It's a better system. I will own my content. I can then do advertising on top of that. Now, maybe some of you are like, okay, cool. That's really cool in theory, but what if I wanted to actually build this thing? And what I'm going to tell you right now is that this thing is available. You can do this right now. The talk that I'm giving is on Swarm right now. You can build a node on there and collect, just like that. You can go and ask other nodes to collect this talk. In fact, for the tech people in the room, what I've got is, this is a Geth node running, this is a Swarm node running, this is the latest Mist. The latest Mist supports Swarm. And yeah, this is Mist. This is the latest Mist. I wanted to just prove a point, so I made up a quick HTML web page with Syd Ethereum, and there's a thing called ENS for people in the room that know what that is, so I can put a domain name. So a domain name, like the normal internet, you put a domain name for Swarm, and I went to put sydethereum.f. Somebody in this room beat me to it. There it is, who is it? Yeah, nice. So someone beat me to that domain name, so I came up with a better one. Let's see if I can type it. So I regret not getting in there before you, or even making a video because I didn't think about it. So I've got Syd Ethereum. I'm typed left-handed. Syd Ethereum regrets. And I regret not getting it. So this, right now, if I press enter, I'm going through the Swarm network to collect a HTML file or a web page. So it's the new internet, right? I get a web page, press enter, and this is I quickly made, so and I'm not really a front-end dev. So anyway, Syd F on Swarm, I've actually literally, like this, oh, look at that. I've essentially just done this. My computer right now is one of these blocks on the Swarm network, and I went and collected that HTML file from Swarm. So this thing is actually active right now. Yeah, you don't have to put your content onto Facebook, you can now put it on Swarm. Okay, so there's a whole plethora of things that Ethereum is trying to develop, and I only just want to briefly mention a few of these before I finish. So firstly, there's ENS. ENS is the equivalent of DNS. I've seen some documentation in the communities where they talk about legacy DNS, as in no business legacy DNS. So I decided to chuck that in there. Yeah, so if you're interested in ENS, you can look up domains to get ENS. The other cool thing that these guys are developing is Swatch. I've heard of that GitHub thing, that's a gist from Victor. If you know Victor, he's working on Swarm. And what Swatch is doing is they actually, through this network, you can do live multimedia streaming, which is actually kind of cool. You get redundancy because you go through multiple nodes, you increase the bandwidth, and you can have adaptive bandwidth over adaptive transmission latency, which is particularly cool with Swatch. So you can actually have live streams of this kind of network. The other thing I briefly want to mention is BAT, the basic attention token. You go to this website and learn about it. The reason I want to mention that is because they're trying to solve the advertising problem that I mentioned as a problem about 2.0. So if you own your own content through Swarm, you can use the BAT, you can use essentially BAT tokens to pay your users that look at advertising, and you can use that as to replace the whole broken advertising section of the internet. So there's even more than that. Ethereum's got a whole heap of things going on. I don't have time to talk about all of them, so I just want to outline the roadmap in case any of you guys haven't seen it. The first thing there was an Olympic testnet. People played around with some Ethereum. It doesn't actually count as proper Ethereum. There was Frontier. Frontier is essentially allowed, it was just a GUI interface. Devs can play around with Ethereum, looking at the things that there was very minimal libraries on the EVM. We're only at Homestead, it's where we are now. We have a GUI interface, we've got Mist, we've got Parry, we've got some EVM stuff. What's coming in a couple of months is Metropolis. They're in testing at the moment. They're going to abstract away some of the key signing and stuff into smart contracts, which is going to be kind of cool. This is coming out soon. And then Serenity is this, fabled thing to solve all possible blockchain problems. And it's going to do sharding, and it's going to do proof of stake, and this thing. So anyway, what I'm trying to articulate here is Ethereum is only still beginning, right? We don't even know where it's going to be by the time it gets Serenity, and that's probably about a year and a half off. Okay, so hopefully a lot of that made sense. This talk is on Swarm, so if you want to go and get the slides there, you have to kind of figure out how to get to Swarm. If you Google Swarm gateways, it's not so difficult. That's the address. Cool, thank you.